COVID-19 and discuss about it, how we cope during this period and how we could help our communities right now. Welcome, Mali.
Thank you so much for having me today. This is wonderful.
You're welcome. So I'm really happy you had the time to join me today, and I thank you for that. I appreciate your time. And I know it's not easy right now. Everybody's stuck at home, and I was wondering, how are you doing?
I think overall, I think we have, at least I have my days. Overall, I feel optimistic and hopeful because I always look for the silver lining in things. But I understand that we're under a tremendous amount of pressure, fear, and anxiety. And being a business owner and also being a community builder, I really have to create self-care time because my community members, they really lean on us and they call us, they share their fears and their worries. And so we have to make sure that we are sane and are healthy in order to support them with the best version of who we are. And I keep saying we because my husband and I, we both run the business together. So we do a lot of activities and events that support small and medium-sized business owners. And as you can imagine, everyone's worried and scared right now about how their lives are going to be because of not being able to work, not being able to get new clients. And so we truly are in this together. And we're just doing the best we can with what we have.
And how are you doing?
I think a combination of some days very stressed, very worried, very concerned about our own business. Other days, I feel that there's moments for reflection and many things to be grateful for. Things like having time to pause and reset and think about what's important for us, the types of people we want to be, and the types of communities we truly, truly wish to serve. Not just because it's making us money or helping us grow our business, but really what's in our heart. Who do we desire to support? So we've been doing things like revisiting our strategic plan, building our new business plan, figuring out really what we want to do moving forward and who we want to be moving forward as leaders. So there's some wonderful moments of gratitude because we have, where the world stops, we have time, which we hadn't had time before as business people.
Oh.
Yes. How are you navigating all this? Because you are a community builder. I'm just curious about, and also we're in different parts of the world. I'm here in the Washington, D.C. area, right outside of the nation's capital. And you're out in the Atlantic. We're in different time zones.
True. Actually, I'm doing my best. I am trying not to stress more, still inform people about the situation, and trying to help the most people I could help, whether you have a really tiny, small business or bigger one, doesn't matter. The point is to help everybody still have hope, avoid fear, which is the most important part, because when you are having fear, you are panicking and it's not good. So I'm trying to cope with that and trying to make people feel more like there is still a hope and there is still a way out to this situation. Even if we can't tell when it's going to happen, we know definitely it's going to happen.
Yeah, nothing lasts forever, right? Even the
Exactly.
bad, even the
and you
bad.
have to enjoy what you have, because some people may be in a worse situation than you at that specific moment. It's just about enjoying and appreciating what you have and staying sane.
Yes. And also being mindful. I think one of the things that we're also careful about is because when we think about uplifting others and we do these virtual mix and mingles, almost like happy hours, we're careful to present it like it's party time, because it's not about party time. And we always say that this is a sanity check-in, right? Every week we get together because we need some place to go where our community members are free to express how they're feeling, are free to tell jokes because they're tired of crying or tired of having sleepless nights, and giving them a space where they can come to and say, I just want to listen to music and do a virtual happy hour today because I just can't handle the amount of stress.
What do you mean by virtual happy hour?
We've been building every week since we were sent home and not being able to go to work. Our community, the SOAR Community Network, and it's open to anybody in the world. So if you're interested, every Friday 5 p.m. Eastern time. We have between 25 and up to 50 people show up during a
Oh,
Zoom call. They have to register to get the link, and they
okay.
can bring their cocktails or their mocktails. They don't have to be alcohol. And sometimes we have special guests like singers, songwriters, performers. We had a comedian, and they do kind of a mini showcase for 20, 30 minutes.
Register me for next Friday then.
I would love to. And then we have these little breakout rooms on Zoom, and you get to know each other. You don't have to talk about business at all. We just give each group like 3 questions, silly questions, like what's your favorite movie that you never get tired of? If you were to be sent to outer space and you can only take 5 things, what would it be? So we have a chance to relax and have
Yeah,
a
that's
chance to
funny.
have
And you
fun.
escape about the reality and what's
Yeah,
going on. That's a good
yeah,
thing. Register me for next Friday.
I will. We'll have you for sure.
So now my next question would be, could you tell us about you, what you do, your business and your husband? How does it work?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. So the SOAR Community Network is a company that I built over 9 years ago. And about 4 years ago, my husband decided to join the company. So my husband, his name is Victor, and he's been a department head for information technology for many, many companies for over 20 plus years. And 4 years ago, my business was growing, and I needed someone who had the background to help scale the organization.
Mhm.
And he came on board, and we run the business together, just the two of us. And our business is really helping leaders and their organizations have clear direction on their purpose. So we do things like strategic planning. We
Mhm.
do retreats and workshops. We also help to optimize their talent. So we make sure that everybody at work is getting along, that the team members are working cohesively and communicating effectively together. And then we look at their processes and their systems to make sure that they can actually have the technology and tools they need to accomplish their mission. So we say that we map to 3 pillars. We do purpose, people, and process. So that's what we do as a company. And we have a membership platform called Nebula, where change agents around the world like you can come and learn,
Mhm.
take classes, mastermind together to create greater social impact. So that's our work and that's our passion. And we've been at this for many, many years, and we love it.
Awesome. And how do you hold these days? How do you together hold every day, knowing the COVID-19 situation is not getting better yet? How do you
Yeah.
cope as
Well,
a couple? I mean.
as a couple, I think there also obviously there's some challenges because we work with one company with one income. So we don't
Okay.
have like another check, and we don't have something to support us. So there are moments when we feel stressed, but other times where we feel, because we have a strong community, we've decided that every day since we came home to work, Ndeye, we just get up every day, and it's almost like we go to work to the office. We start the same time, we finish the same time. We have conversations over virtual Zoom like every hour. We haven't stopped working. And a
Okay.
lot of the work right now is just to offer support. Like you said, it's not about selling anything. It's more about what can we do to support you? Do you need resources? Can we find connections for you to help you get through this pandemic and survive so that at some point, all of our businesses can thrive again? So that's what we've been spending our time doing. It's not been easy days, but we continue to stay productive, stay creative. We've gotten certifications, we read books, anything that can keep us moving gracefully through this, knowing that there's never been a time in our lives in history that we've experienced something like this. It's real. We're not naive to the reality, but at the same time, we have to create almost a bubble so that we can keep our sanity and keep moving forward, or otherwise we'd just be depressed and upset and fearful every day, and that's not healthy.
And what do you do in your bubble that could help our audience and see or learn from you how to cope?
What's worked really well for me is in the mornings, I do take at least 5 minutes
Mhm.
to meditate. And meditation can be anything from just sitting still, or meditation can be writing in your gratitude log. It could be praying, just a
Mhm.
5-minute break from reality and just set your intentions for the day. And then I use a technique called EFT. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called Emotional Freedom Technique. Emotional freedom technique is a tapping mechanism that you use your own fingertips and you move energy through your body, because sometimes we hold on to things we don't realize. And so you tap and you say affirmations and you do several different iterations of this, and it resets your energy. It resets your pain, your anxiety. You might have woken up with a bad dream, for instance, and you just feel off. So it's a great way to move some negative energy around and release that. So those are the types of tools that help me. And then gratitude logs. I have a gratitude log that I put next to my bedside table, so that before I go to bed, so I don't have bad dreams or anxiety, I write down all the things that I'm grateful for every day. And I'm not always great at it, though. Some days I forget to write in it, but most days when I see it, I at least write one or two things down that I'm grateful for. Even during this time of panic and fear, there's always something that we can look for in the day to be grateful and feel blessed about.
Awesome. I love that. And I have a question related to your podcast. Why did you start your podcast?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that.
Okay.
So the podcast we have is really to highlight community change agents from all over the world. And change agents, to me, the definition of that is anybody who is creating some positive ripple effect in their community. So you don't have to be a business owner. You don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to have any type of title that the society and the world puts up on a pedestal. You can be just an average, wonderful human being who cares about something that you want to make better in your community or even in your family. So we decided, as a part of our Nebula movement, where we're inviting every single soul to step into their gifts and their talents and share with the world, so that we can have something of greater significance, something that helps us become more united. That's why we decided to launch the interview series, because I feel, at least in our world of small business owners, that we don't always understand our own value, our own significance, and our own worth. And I decided that if I interviewed all these change agents who are doing wonderful things, and it doesn't matter what their title is, that it might inspire someone who's listening to say, man, I have gifts and talents. I have things that I can share with the world that's positive. Let me step in and let me try and do something that's positive for somebody else. That's why we started it. And it's been such a wonderful experience, because we're attracting people to not only share their gifts, but to develop their gifts. So inside our Nebula portal, we have classes, we have forums, we have articles and videos that they can also help to train themselves and become better. So that's been wonderful.
That's awesome. And for somebody watching this, what kind of interviewee you want to have, or who may contact you for that purpose to join your podcast?
Well, a lot of times folks that have been interviewed have been sent to us. So there are people who are usually referring business leaders, or someone who's starting a nonprofit, for instance, or perhaps someone who is doing some type of social initiative or social change initiative. So we get emails saying, hey, so-and-so John or Sally in my community is doing something positive. I want them to be featured. I wish for them to be highlighted, and please share their mission with the world. So that's how we've been able to really get the types of people to do the interviews.
Awesome. And what advice would you have for someone who is under lockdown for more than a month, can't go out, or is really depressed? What would be your advice?
Well, we've actually been talking, a lot of our community leaders work in that space. They're either first responders or they're health and wellness experts. And one thing they say is reach out to those that you feel, and even in your own lives, might not just be in isolation physically, but feeling isolated. And for us to reach out and make those phone calls, check in on that person. If you're doing an event virtually and they haven't showed up to any of that, but that you're close with them, reach out to them. Those that are feeling isolated, it's okay to reach out and make those phone calls or do those fun things. Like I said, join those happy hours, look online. There's still a lot of virtual events right now, meetups where you can share what your anxieties are, what your fears are. Right now, more than ever, none of us are alone. If you're feeling isolated, this is the time to say you're not the only one. The whole world is feeling worried and concerned. But if you're having some mental illness concerns, like you're just feeling, wow, this is not like me, something deeper is happening. There are also wonderful organizations that are offering free hotlines and free therapy that you can just call. You can go online, you can Google that, free therapy sessions during COVID-19, and there are tons of nonprofit organizations that you can call anonymously just to talk it through without feeling shame or feeling judged. I would say, please reach out. This is temporary, but you also have to have the bravery and the courage to say, I can't do this by myself.
That's awesome. I didn't know about that. It's good to know that you could just Google and have access. And what would you tell somebody who's in an abusive situation and locked down with their abuser?
Well, I actually had this situation happen, and I had a call, and someone has shared with me that they were experiencing this. And this is a very difficult situation because there's a lot of concerns about making the call and not having a place to go, right?
Yeah.
Because the shelters are also worried about COVID-19. They're being very, very selective of the types of people that they can actually house and support. Nevertheless, though, if you have family and friends, this is not a time to be ashamed or worried. You have to choose safety first. You have to choose safety for yourself. And if you have family, you have to consider that this is a critical time to be the most courageous you've ever been. Reach out to a friend you trust. Reach out to the local hotlines that you have to go ahead and be a part of that.
That sounds great. I think that's a good thing to do because I know there is, I think it's in Washington, D.C., there is an option where you could call for Lyft to have a free Lyft or free Uber. But the thing is, you don't have any shelter open. So some people might be stuck, not because they don't have an option to travel from point A to point B, but maybe they don't have a point B, or maybe they
Yeah.
are too ashamed to call for help too.
It's a very troubling and trying time because even the places that want to support, there's only so much that they can do to protect the safety of all those that are currently in the shelter. It's just such a complex time right now. So I would say the best thing to do is if you have and can trust your intuition enough to reach out to somebody that you can trust to share this with, perhaps they can be a temporary place for you to be sheltered until we ride this thing out. And these official formal shelters can feel more safe to bring more people into these shelters. Because it's not just about risking those that are already in the shelter, it's also risking you possibly getting COVID-19 from those that may unfortunately be infected and asymptomatic and not show it.
Cool.
So it's very complex right now.
And one more recent news, you know what happened in Nova Scotia?
Oh, yes.
We had a shooting for, I think, 18 people died. So what would you say about that situation where you are already stressed because of the COVID-19 and on top of that, you have people shooting other people?
No, I feel like this is something that isn't just unique to COVID-19, especially in the US. We've had this epidemic, I would say, going on for a long time with just access to firearms. And then you have this very complex situation with COVID-19 and everybody is stressed. And those that are already maybe having some health and mental health issues are feeling the anxiety and fear and they're not able to process it. They may not necessarily even be on medication to support with any type of imbalance they might have. And so unfortunately, I fear that we're going to see more and more of these types of things, hopefully not at the mass degree that we saw yesterday in Nova Scotia, but there will be incidences that are going to come out of this that aren't so great with COVID-19. I mean, I've talked to some first responder friends, and they're saying domestic violence numbers are increasing, the calls to the suicide hotlines are increasing, and a lot of folks are just having a very difficult time right now, being isolated, being sheltered, and not having the space and the freedom to move around and to go. So I don't have an answer for that. I'm not a
But
mental health
at a
expert.
community level, what do you think could we do to kind of not annihilate this situation because it's too big word, but to help? Because it's really hard to know who's victim of the violence and what to do.
Yeah.
And especially in this COVID-19 period where everybody is self-isolated.
I think, I mean, I can only speak for our community. I think what we can do best is to let our community members, starting with our community, and hopefully you have your community, and just letting them know that there is a safe place to go, that we can be a resource for them. And if we can't support them personally, we have those others in our community who are professionals, who are capable, who are licensed, that can help walk them through this. But most people just need to know that they have a place to go and they have a safe place to share what's going on. If you can't share your fears, your anxieties, your concerns, then you really don't have an out. You're going to get more isolated. You're going to get more depressed. And who knows how that will manifest itself, right? So most people who don't have a safe community or people that they can turn to, that's very difficult. So for us, the one thing that we can do and we can control is that all of our community members know that we're here for you, whatever you need, that you can share. It's safe. No one's going to be blasting this out on social media and telling anybody your business, but let us know so that we can help find the resources for you.
True. And what's your advice for someone who would like to start a podcast?
Oh my goodness. I think that, I think a lot of people are interested in podcasting, and the one advice I would say is figure out who you ultimately wish to serve. What's the overarching theme for what you want to give to the world? You don't have to be like anybody else, but what gives you joy and passion? What topics matter to you? Who do you want to serve? Because obviously we can't serve everyone, but when you start a podcast, you're also going to have to figure out how to attract the right types of listeners, the right types of viewers. And if you want the engagement, you're going to have to make sure that it's a match between what you desire to share with the world and what they desire to receive in terms of content. So I would say understand yourself and what lights you up and gives you joy that you want to offer to the world, and then try and identify who, psychographically as well, not just demographically, right? Psychographically is truly interested in what you have to share and what you have to put out there.
I think it's a great advice. And where do you see us for Christmas 2020? What's going to happen for Christmas this year?
Oh my gosh, I wish I had a crystal ball. These are such hard questions. If I had a crystal ball and I can say in 2020 Christmas what I predict will be, I think that we're still going to have a lot of concerns and a lot of worries to have the sense of closeness until we have a vaccine. That's just the way it's going to be. I mean, I think with the social distancing and everyone's talking about flattening the curve, and hopefully in the summertime that this virus, a lot of it will definitely go away. But we're talking about global now, because our summers, there will be other people's winters. Other people's winters will be our summers. So it's going to be around.
And also they're
globally.
talking about the different waves we're going to have.
Yes. Exactly. So I feel by Christmas that unless truly we have a vaccine, we are still going to have to be very mindful and conscious. We're still going to feel somewhat anxious. We're not going to want to stay closer than 6 feet to people still. We're still going to be worried, right?
Maybe your party, the thing you have, how do you call it? Happy hour party, maybe the Christmas happy.
It may be. I hope not. My hope is that we can actually get together. But I think that a lot of things will change out of this experience. I feel that more organizations will understand that doing work remotely is not such a bad thing, that you can still be productive. You might be able to reduce some wasted time and resources. But at the same time, we're humans and we're social creatures. So I know we're going to want to see each other and hug each other and be together again. But I think there'll be a nicer blend of this idea of what matters to me. I'd love to be able to split my time being remote because I do enjoy spending more time with my family. And at the same time, as social creatures, we need to look into each other's eyes and not have a screen separate us to feel connection. So
True.
I do predict certain things will stay and continue when we can go back to normal, which I don't know if
When
that's
it's
really
gonna
going to
be.
be normal at all. Actually, I think this is a big paradigm shift for us.
Yeah.
But certainly, we need to be together again. You know, that's just the human beings need that aspect. So I know that we'll figure it out, and we have to trust science, and we have to trust that the scientists know the truth, because they're going to test and test and test to make sure that everybody is safe. So be mindful of that.
And where to listen to your podcast?
Oh my goodness. So they can go and visit our website. It's SOAR, SOAR, communitynetwork.com. And if they click on Viewpoints, which is our blog spot, they can see not only the interviews, but they can read articles. They can really just meet some of our community members who are experts in their field, sharing some tips and tools. And then we have YouTube, Facebook. It's posted all over LinkedIn.
Okay, I
So
think you'll have to post all the link below.
I will do that. I will do that before
Yeah.
we get off this. Yes.
Any more question you would like me to ask me before we wrapped up?
Yes, no, I mean, thank you so much for the opportunity for me to share, but I would also like to ask you, like, what have you been finding with your community? I know you have so many followers and so many fans. What has been the pulse of your community members? What are they concerned about? What are they hopeful for?
Mostly it's the fear. I would call it fear. I will simplify it. It's the fear, and it's also I think it's all fear. It's the fear of the unknown. I lose my job, what would I do? And in that case, I think the best right now would be the passive income. Like you have with your husband, you have this option to work from home. You have your own business. You are still doing your podcast. Okay, it's not like every day where you could leave home and come back home, but still you could still sustain and you have your own business. So that's the thing I usually advise. And regarding the fear, it's more difficult, and that's why I have few other interviews coming next Thursday, probably next Sunday, and next Monday, at least one or twice a week, where I have people talking about how they cope. Because if you could see somebody else thriving through what you are going through, and being able to be successful and going through the process and feeling okay, I think it's something that's really rewarding. And even if you feel down, the fact that you see somebody else is thriving through is a positive impact. So my best way I could do, because if you are self-isolated, you can't go meet people, you can't hug, you can't have all that interaction we usually have. So you have to kind of get over with that. You can't have it. And in that case, it's better to help each other through behind the screen. That's the best we could. Eventually have some experts to talk about how they cope, how they do it, and they are on a real time, I mean, right now, succeeding in doing it. And like you said, the happy hour is a really great idea. I think I should also go for something like that, where you could have people joining you, having a drink, mocktail, or whatever you want to have at your home, and enjoy the time, listen to music, and share, maybe discuss some difficult topics. I think it helps move on. I think that's the best you could have right now.
Yeah, and we've also had some of our community members host dance parties where they call their dance instructor to lead. And then we're with our computers learning dance moves. And we also had a performance where, you know, one of our friends who is a singer-songwriter performed for us, and we were able to listen and dance. And it's just, this is the most important time to build your community. And if you are truly committed to supporting others, it's a great reset to think about using technology, using the virtual tools to build your community, where people are going to remember you for what you were able to help them feel during such a time of panic and stress and anxiety.
I agree. I totally agree.
So I have one more question before we close out for you.
Okay.
In terms of advice to our community members, you know, what has it been like for you? Like, what are the tools that you use? You asked me about how do I navigate this, and I talked about meditation and gratitude and EFT. How have you been able to manage and keep yourself sane during this time?
I do walking a lot. I do a lot of reading too. And I try to, I would love and I like to stay updated about the news. But sometimes when I feel like it's a little bit too much, I just disconnect until I'm okay to get back to the news and I could handle it. Because sometimes if you can't take it, just stop. Don't
Right.
push, don't try to overtake it. It doesn't work. And then once I'm back, I could cope with the numbers and kind of try to think, okay, how is the family? How is my friend? How is this one? How is this one? And I try to kind of contact you, whether it's social media or whether it's a call. I keep bugging you because sometimes you try to contact someone who's maybe so tired of social media, they are not even checking their phone anymore because it's so overwhelming. And in that case, you have to keep going and worry for that person and make them know that you are there for them. No matter what, if there is something you want to discuss or if you feel too lonely, this is an option. And I also keep working on my social media, growing my audience. I try to be more humanly available possible because I have this lockdown situation where the only thing you could do is online. So the best is to read the messages, get a feedback, be more live because I was kind of absent the last months. Almost a year, I was not really doing lives. So I'm coming back to be live, and you know that you have this consistent option where you could see me, we discuss about topics, and also have to prepare the written interviews on LinkedIn, the future interviews on Instagram, and also talk with the future interviewee. And all those stuff kind of keep you busy and you almost forget about the COVID-19 situation.
It's
And
so
of
hard.
course, I have the gratitude part and I have the meditation part where you have a moment or a second where you kind of just take a deep breath and just think about all the good stuff you have, not only the bad part. Because even if your day was full of bad stuff, you still could find one or two things that work well and that are positive and better than yesterday.
Yes.
And I think it's a good tone to have before you go to bed. And the next day you wake up with more envy to be there than just thinking about the negative parts where you have no control over, and having no control over make you feel back. So that's not a good thing. It's better to focus on the good part and move on. That's what I do.
That's
I hope
great.
it answers your questions.
No, it did answer my questions. I think also it's worth us mentioning and talking about that we are facing a pandemic and there is a lot of noise and a lot of fear and anxiety. And it's okay if you get up in the morning and you really do just decide you don't want to do anything today. Like we have to give ourselves permission.
One question I almost forget.
Yes.
What do you think if somebody in the community is not social media literate? So not able to go on Zoom to have the happy party, a happy hour. So what would be your advice?
Well, right now, because we have time to help and to support, we put together a tutorial, but we also put it out to our general community that if you are having difficulties learning virtual tools like Zoom, then schedule 30 minutes with us. So if the tutorial on our website doesn't help them, they can actually contact one of us, my husband and I, and we will for 30 minutes share the screen with you and then show you exactly how to use it.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's great.
So anybody who would like to, please find us and we'll help you because it's important that we stay connected. If we can't go anywhere, we still need to connect. We still need to I can at least see your face and I can look into your eyes, even though we can't hug or we can't give high fives, because this time of isolation is very dangerous for those that have a difficult time being alone. And, we can't take that for granted. Most of us have a hard time in isolation because, again, human beings are social creatures. But if you are especially living alone, or if you're in a place in the world where your lockdown is not even allowing you to go outside and get sunlight, right? There are places in the world where it's complete lockdown. You cannot leave your home no more than 5 minutes. That's also physiologically what's happening is that you are not getting the vitamins and the nutrients you need to be healthy. So it's not just a mindset, it's also physiological. So it's very important that you at least use technology to not feel so alone in the world. And we welcome anybody who needs support. We can help guide you and help get you set up with something like Zoom.
That's awesome. I like that. Thank you so much. Unless you have another question.
I think we're good. I think you answered the question. I really appreciate this time to chat with you. It's been wonderful, and that we can communicate this way in different parts of the world and still feel close and connected. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
It was a pleasure having you today. And I look forward to our interview. I think it's set for next Friday.
Yes, yes. So there'll be my full chance to interview you for our Change Agent series. Thank you. I look forward to it.
Stay safe, and don't forget to add the link below.
I will. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.